Well, firstly, you've signed an MOU with a potential site.
Yes.
Can you give us a bit of detail in terms of what you've done to get to this point?
Well, I mean, it's been a long process. I think it was about a year ago. We were sitting with fans in the room, and we had said, we're looking at a site on the riverside. We had the city's endorsement to have a look at it. So it's been a long process for sure. And in that, too, we also had to settle London Road, like what happens here. So the two were kind of inextricably, I'm amazed I just said that word, inextricably intertwined. And so to have to be able to undo all of that, look after the various agendas, because the city's got a lot going on. If you look at where we fit in the master plan, I wouldn't call it insignificant. It's a nice bookend at the end of the day, but it wasn't the main driver for the city's agenda. And so we're just excited that they had put us in the master plan, that they've signed an MOU, that we're working in a partnership with them, and we're pretty excited about what happens next. Yeah,
I guess from people on the outside, they don't hear anything for a while and think everything's just gone quiet, but actually there's been so much work going on behind the scenes. You're working afternoon, morning and night.
I had my Air Canada Super Diamond Elite Gold Millionaire status in 1 month, it felt like, because I was really excited about this pre-Christmas, and I wanted to try to get it into this year, and I've been really looking forward to announcing to the fans where we were going to be, but it wasn't with the timing of the city, and so and on top of that, some of the city people had to be brought along. Some of the football people had to be brought along. And so the more and more you bring more people into the decision-making process, of course, it's going to be longer.
Yeah, and working with the City Council, you've obviously done that over a long period of time now. You've got a good relationship.
It's been fantastic. I'm actually really excited. I think there's always fear and trepidation because we have an agenda. They have an agenda, and the first couple of dances are do our agendas align? And I think it's been great. There's a long history of the city and the club getting along. Bob Sims has just done a fantastic job on behalf of Peterborough United, and I think the fans just need to know. We couldn't have done this without Bob actually just being able to pick up a phone, call people, and if things were going off the rails, Bob fixed it with a phone call. Or if you couldn't fix it with a phone call, I'd fly over from Canada, Jason would fly over from Canada, another set of meetings, get everybody back on board and drive it forward a little further.
And how important is that? You mentioned that it's great that you're able to have that relationship, but it really is when you're dealing with the intricacies of a deal like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love if it was just about football, right? But we're now firmly entrenched. I'm going to say the word for the first time, and I'm pretty excited about it. We're entrenched in the embankment. That is fantastic, and the city's okay with that. We've left the city room that if we find like the Peterborough spotted newt or the Cambridgeshire owl, or people just in general don't want that green space being used, we're going to let the people do with the process what they need to do. But site number 2, the other side where we've been calling Riverside, at least we now know we're down to one of those 2 places. Obviously, embankment is really exciting. I just look at all the synergies with the master plan and Flint Keys, and the ability to walk from the new train station through the cathedral really showcase the city. It's really hard not to get excited about that. It doesn't mean that the other side of the river wouldn't work. It'll be great, but then we have parking, we have access, and there's a little other, bumps along the way that will make it just site number 2. I think that's the best way to put it.
And when you're looking at identifying sites for a new stadium, what essentially are you looking for? What's the key component to finding the ideal location?
So I think every owner, every city planner, I think, quite frankly, every fan would have an absolutely different answer to that. My background was economic development. I was a chief of staff, and I love this whole city planning process. I love how we fit into a bigger play. I love how this stadium and what we can do on the embankment actually was going to have a massive impact on how Peterborough looks, where we all hang out for restaurants and bars, how we use a new facility for different conferences and trade shows. And by the way, we are working with East of England, so it's I want to just put that to bed, that it's not a competitive site. We're actually looking at synergies between the two spots. So we've done a really good job, I think, as a club, embedding ourselves into other people's plans, and our plans just happen to fit into other people's plans. I think that's something we've done really well, actually. Yeah. Pretty proud of that.
Of course, with an MOU being signed, a memorandum of understanding being completed, what's the timeline? What happens now, in essence, for supporters out there wanting to know what that actually means?
I think supporters know that two of the partners have been open about the speed that they would like to see this accomplished in, and another partner who is a little more conservative has suggested we should, play it safer. So I'm going to say, ideally, we're looking at a stadium anytime from 36 months to 7 years. And I'm only saying 7 years because I don't believe it, but I wouldn't be fair to Dr. Neil if I didn't put it on the table that we should be at least taking as much time as we need to do it properly.
And of course, you don't know what's going to happen during that journey, do you? So there's loads of things that might come up that you won't expect.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very excited about the group that we've chosen to be our stadium consultants. They're going to work on builders and architects now, but they have a history of actually getting from planning to build in 36 months. So maybe it's a year extra, maybe it's an extra year for planning or something comes up. I mean, let's face it, that's an amazing embankment, and the history of Peterborough, like to be able to be part of that and be part of the cathedral and the embankment, we should take our time and do that properly.
Yeah. One of the first things you actually did was hold a fans forum. You wanted to listen to the supporters, you wanted to get their views. How important was that for you to ensure that they're involved in the process as much as they can?
I'm actually really glad you asked that question. Because it wasn't that Jason and I, as an example, came to Dara and said, hey, we'd love to join the club and we want to build a new stadium. In fact, I remember being like an English football fan, I always said to people, as a guy who plays Football Manager, London Road's a famous stadium, right? And we were told, like, you're never going to move. That was embedded when I got here. And I think also, I hope that fans have been able to see how we operate over the last 2.5 years and see that in our first year we did what we said we were going to do, which is not a lot. Sit back, see where we could fit in, see where we put an oar in the water and help, make things a little more efficient. Dara had a huge weight on his shoulders carrying football and business and the stadium. Bob had plans already for how we could make London Road work. But as the city owned the land, as the apartments go up, the housing strips go up, we found asbestos, all those plans that, in fact, what I'd started with Bob was, what are we going to do to make this work? It just became more and more evident that was not, it wasn't a cause that could, it wasn't a good use of a cause, how's that? And that fan forum was massive for me because I could actually see, as we walked through the rationale, people could get their head around it, and Twitter, and we've gone to Hungary now. We showed people what we're thinking about. The feedback's been great. I think it's pretty. It's well over 80% for support for the new place, and I don't think we're on a path to make sure the fans are not let down by what we're doing.
Yeah, how important was that as well to go and see other stadia, whether it be completed, also look at plans for additional stadiums elsewhere? Because it's all very well saying you want this, that, and the other, but you need to understand the infrastructure and how it works.
Yeah, 100%. I got to tell you, building new stadiums scares the hell out of me. Right? There's just the English Football League is riddled with clubs that have done it wrong, clubs that turned it into an ego project, clubs that mismanaged that, and you can just lose piles and piles of money. And I think one of the things that we've been very clear about that scares us the most about being involved is losing piles and piles of money.
As it would.
As it would. As it should. How's that? There are others. There are other people that from other countries that have lots of money to pour into their vanity project, and this was never a vanity project for the three of us. So. Yeah, this is a scary undertaking for a guy who does startup tech investing. I'm not a property manager. I don't do property development. Jason hasn't done it. Dara's got some background in it. But it's not who we are. We run a football club. And so, yeah, the process still scares me every day, and we just have to make sure we get the right people around us and make sure we drive at the right pace to a conclusion that we can all be happy with.
Yeah, and in terms of the dynamic between you, Jason, and Dara, you seem to have all found your place, which is quite hard in a trio, isn't it? Because there's always going to be an odd number there, but you feel that the partnership seems to be working as well as you ever thought it would.
I think it's actually worked better than we all thought it would. Every one of us, if we're being blunt and candid, has a big ego. It was really important for each of us to find our own place. And I feel that we've done that. As I've used the analogy before, if Dara is the Home Secretary and Jason is the Chancellor of the Exchequer and I'm the Foreign Minister, I think it's worked out very well. I could carve out the go forward plan and work with the city and do some of the things I've done in the past. Jason is really, really solid on operations. We know his background academically and working with Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And Dara is probably one of the most passionate football people I have ever met. I don't think there's a moment where he's not talking about the football club. And that, I think, has worked really well for us to be able to separate the pieces, work on our own pieces, make sure we come back to the partnership. And there's times where we go, what were you thinking? But I think we are lucky on how it's worked for us, which in turn, I hope the fans and supporters feel that it's been pretty good for them too.
Yeah, you mentioned it would be nerve-wracking building a new stadium, but exciting as well, I guess. It's one of those, you always get nerves when you're doing something that you know is going to be right, and I guess you sort of drawing up plans and saying, I want this, I want that, I want the other. I'm guessing you've worked out where your suite's going to be?
Yes, actually that's true. One of the first things that happened was, okay, how are we dividing this? Should we use up prime real estate we should sell to a sponsor and just carve out 3 offices? And of course a cigar room, but that's, oh wait, no smoking. It's been surreal. And I had to tell you, the first day I walked in as an owner, I know I had different plans before coming to Peterborough, but there was just something about walking out on that field with my 2 partners that just felt, I can't believe this is happening. I would put the new stadium right up there and with the enthusiasm I had as the first day of being a new owner here at Peterborough.
Yeah, and in terms of a new stadium, one thing you've constantly spoke about is to make sure that we don't forget what's gone on in the past, and you've worked tirelessly to ensure that when we do make that move, all the history is coming alongside.
I'd actually, and to your credit, Phil, and that's a shout out for Phil.
Thank you.
You've been part of that too. We feel that not only do we want to bring it along, we actually have to do a better job with our history than we did here. I'd like to see things like it could be potentially a museum. I'd love to see maybe a museum bar where you have access to the history and access to the field, and it's all there. I'd like to see something we're working on, the 100 initiative, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that at some point. We've worked with the historians, we've worked with the different supporters groups to actually bring our history into where we're going, and do a better job. And I'm just going to call them out. I think Arsenal did a horrible job of taking Highbury into Emirates. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have the only thing we have from here, a clock left on the 3rd tier of somewhere that's supposed to remind us about our proud history in a really cool park. So we're looking at different ways that, if fans have something from the past. We had a hashtag, where's the sign? We were looking for that horrible, cheesy 1950 fluorescent sign. We haven't found it. I would love to, like I say, not just bring our history, enhance what we know, and it should be a really big part of where we go.
Yeah, and just finally, you can never control what goes on the pitch, but off the pitch, is this as exciting a supporter should be looking at this time and thinking this is the time to be involved in a football club, regardless of where we are in the league or whatever goes on there? This is massive for the community.
Yeah, I mean, that was Phil's tee up to say, I'm supposed to say right now, hurry, buy now in terms of get your season tickets. I'm going to say that, but let's face it, as most supporters, I think they still really want to be the football. I think, again, it's not my job to be Dara, but it's my part as an owner to actually bring everything I can to make the experience better. And what I've seen the new stadium do for places where we actually get a bar, we get some real food. How about washrooms that are clean? Oh wait, I'll settle for washrooms. You know, the things we can do in a new stadium that women, children, grandparents, older people, disabled people can actually participate that London Road doesn't give us right now. I'm really excited about that. I don't anticipate that people are just going to come buy a ticket because the new stadium is going to be fantastic. I think they will once or twice, but the enhanced revenues of the convention piece, the enhanced revenues of better concessions, the enhanced revenue of being part of the city's plan means we'll have money to be able to put it back into the club to enhance our ability to be what we think we should be, which is a championship club. And we're following some models that have worked really well. Brighton, I don't like where they put the stadium, but I think they've done pretty okay since the track and field place they used to play when we had to play them, right? I think there's times where we can look at that, what that new stadium is going to do for us, plus the injection of what we tried to do on the field, and here's hoping that carries on and gets better. But if the two come hand in hand, imagine a great team going to the championship in a new home. Holy cow, this place, Peterborough, will be scary.